if I was to sit and just think about, and about losing your daughter to cancer, your mom to
Yeah,
cancer, and your wife to cancer in 39 months, and think about, you're justified to probably just lock yourself in your room. But I have
100%.
Will. I have a son.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you look at that and you're like, okay, well, that doesn't serve me, and it certainly doesn't serve him.
Yeah. So let me just jump in, Steve. Tell everybody what is this? What is Life's a Journey? Embrace it in your mind.
Yeah, so
What
I
is,
think, I think Life's a Journey, Embrace It kind of got started in a couple, there's probably a couple chapters to this book, or a
yep.
couple stages to this trip. But Life's a Journey kind of originated from a conversation I had with my son back in 2023. We were on our way driving back from Omaha, Nebraska, live in Kansas City.
Yep.
And that the purpose of that trip was for me to take him up to Omaha and say goodbye to my mom, his grandmother. And so she had been shortly before that diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer. And uncharacteristically, he was sitting in the front seat. Normally he's in the back seat at this point in his life. He's probably 18 years old
Yep.
and wants nothing more to listen, certainly not listen to my music, and listen to his. And sitting in the back seat usually allowed him to do that a little bit better. And so,
Yep.
but this trip was a little different. We're on our way back, and he's sitting there next to me, and I just look over at him, and I just said, Will, you just said goodbye to your mother. You lost your sister to cancer when you were 16 years old, 2 years before,
Yeah.
and your mom's diagnosed with breast cancer. All different chapters, but what is it I can do? What is it as a dad that I can do for you to help you move forward, like to equip you with what you're going to need in this life? And it was one of those moments where it's just kind of profound. And we'll certainly rewind a little bit of the story and talk about maybe some other aspects of
Yeah.
that in this discussion. But it was one of those moments where you're actually as raw as you can, asking your child to help tell you what they need from you as a parent,
Yeah.
even knowing how early they are in their life. And he sat there and he kind of listened, and he looked at me and said, Dad, you've been watching these videos on YouTube about overlanding. And he said, and at this point, we'd never actually camped together before. And he said, you know, that looks really good to me. We're driving, we're talking about it a little bit. And by the way, by the time we get back home, that Monday morning, I had a call to a company out of Colorado to help me begin the process of figuring out what that would look like, what it would entail to take a 2022 stock 4Runner and turn it into something that would be spectacular. And my son loves to drive. I mean, that
Okay.
kid, he loves to drive. And so choosing to do something like that together was a really special beginning to a
Yeah.
process.
One of the things I find so compelling about Life's a Journey, Embrace It is, there's a lot of, you just told that story. There's a lot of, I don't know if tragedy is the right word, but loss in your life at this point, right? You lost your daughter died of cancer, your wife Courtney died of cancer, your mother died of cancer, all in very short time. But to take that loss and turn it, I don't know if it's something positive or constructive, but to channel that into something, I think is really that's what when I find that amazing. Tell me about that a
So I
little.
think, like, in let's, putting it in kind of just more philosophical terms, because anybody has had, anybody who's even had a spouse or a parent go through cancer understands just how involved it is.
Yeah.
It's just such a visceral emotional process. And then to have your 12-year-old daughter diagnosed with cancer, and not be able to survive it, and go through something that as a parent you recognize and realize that you just don't have any control of.
Oh,
I remember a moment. It's just as clear as a day, and it was August of 2023. It was before everything was done, and I was on a river. I was on the Colorado River. I was outside of Eagle, Colorado, and as I'm sitting there and I'm looking out, and the Colorado River in certain sections is wide and super calm. It was sunny out. People were playing in the waters. And I just kept thinking about that water flowing and just how that really is very similar to the way our lives really are, right? You can't go upstream in your life, or you can't go backwards
Yeah.
in your life. It's just not really a possibility. You can try to recapture some of those moments,
Yeah.
but you're not, it's not going to be sustainable. And so you look at it and you're like, you know, this is the life that we have. And as I'm looking downstream, and you know, and I see as the canyon is narrowing, and there's rocks and there's jagged, you know, there's jagged sides to it, and the water, you know, increases in pace, and there's the turbidity and the white, you know, the white water. I just kept thinking, just that is it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how this unfolds in our life. And as you know, as you're going through any of these challenges, whether it's dealing with cancer or dealing with any other problems, all you can really focus in on is when things are calm and smooth, you get a chance to look out over the horizon. You get a chance
Yeah.
to dream of the realities, and then all of a sudden you move a little further down the way, and you're faced with rocks and challenges and waterfalls and turbulence, and all you can do is look at the challenge. And so I really look at it, and as I was kind of navigating it and thinking about, okay, well, if that's true, then what's really in your control?
Yeah.
If I was to sit and just think about, and you know, about losing your daughter to cancer, your mom to
Yeah.
cancer, and your wife to cancer in 39 months, and think about, you're justified to probably just lock yourself in your room. But I have
100%.
Will. You know, I have a son.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you look at that and you're like, okay, well, that doesn't serve me, and it certainly doesn't serve him.
Yeah.
And I think that what we then embraced with the process, again, going on a road trip is phenomenal, but the
Yeah.
process of getting him to be able to communicate and verbalize and talk about the things we've been through, and that's kind of the evolution of the graphical wrap that we put on it.
Mhm.
Was it's one thing to build a really cool, capable truck. It's
Yeah.
another to put the context to it, which is really the story,
Yeah.
because it's not about the truck that you used to go out. It's really about the process of how do you get yourself ready in life, which
Yeah.
in the, you know, at the end of the day was, you know, as I do, when you're awake at night and you're thinking about all the things that your kids are going to go through, and you're like, how can you prepare them for those challenges?
Yeah.
Well, you go take them camping for 5 days in the mountains and the elements
Yeah.
and the all those things, and you have to do it a much more condensed time and teach them that level of self-reliance.
Yeah. 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 You have a you had a post after, I think you did what I think it was called the Switzerland Trail or something like that, that I love because um you you had planned this, okay, we're going to go on this trail, and it's a beginning, you know, it's kind of a beginner situation,
Yeah.
but it turned into all kinds of, there was snow, and you know, the your nice plans for a beautiful little drive turned into real adversity. And I think a lot of people will be like, oh my God, I went out to do this and it rained, it snowed, it was just awful, and it was ruined. But you're driving away and saying there's there's gratitude for it, right? Like and I think that's remarkable.
It was supposed to be kind of a, you know, a green run on a ski slope.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we get there, it was by no means a green run on the ski slope. And I think that's just, I think that just goes to bear just, you know, you have to prepare for, you know, so many things, you know,
Yeah.
when you're going to go out. You know, it's one thing to go drive to a trailhead. It's another thing when you are literally going off pavement, past the gravel, into the next stage of the trail, and you're off you know, your cellular
Yeah.
doesn't work, you're off grid. If you didn't download maps onto your phone, you're off map, so you don't necessarily know what's next on the trail. And it just teaches you a level of be prepared. Quite frankly, that teaches Will a sense of, you know, don't panic.
Yeah.
You know, what do you have at your fingertips? We didn't have enough. You know, we
Yeah.
did not prepare for what we got into. And next time, be more prepared.
Yeah. The will angle is very interesting to me. Like, I don't know, how's it affected him?
We get to Colorado, we get the truck, we get out, and we're on our way to Moab. So
Yeah.
we went, this was a trip for 3 nights in Moab. Took him over, you know, he's in his own vehicle. I'm in
Yeah.
mine, communicating with CB radios. He'd never been off-roading before in his life. Here he is navigating tougher off-road trails than I'd ever been on up to this
Mhm.
point, and I'd been doing it, you know, prior to that for years.
Yeah.
And navigating through that, camping, and then on the way back, we're heading back. We're leaving Moab at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, driving back, which would be a night drive. Well, as we're coming into Eagle, Colorado, it's
Yeah.
sprinkling. By Edwards, it's sleeting. By Vale Pass, there's 13 inches of snow on the ground.
Wow.
It's pitch black. Traffic is single lane. He's driving 2 cars ahead of me. He'd never driven anything like this before, and it's whiteout. It
Yeah. Yeah.
is harrowing driving conditions, to say the least.
Yeah.
And I'm behind him watching, and you can't do anything. It's
Right.
that release, saying to yourself, how is he going to get through this? And I have to trust and have faith that he's going to be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then all along, you're on your CB radio going, double your distance. You're too
Yeah.
close. Double your distance. Giving him prompts. No different. And he gets over the pass, and we finally find our way into Denver, Colorado. I don't know. I think it was 12:30 at night.
Yeah.
And we're driving the next day. And we're driving back, and I'm like, called my best friend, you know, Justin, on the phone. And I said, Justin, I have no idea if what I just did, I just spent all this money, did all this stuff, permanently changed my truck. They're cutting everything out.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, how do I know if this is going to be the right decision? And he said to me, he said, Steve, what you just told me on the phone on the past 7 days, he said he has grown into a man just
Wow.
from that trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, that is what Life's a Journey, Embrace It was all about. I would tell you that today he's got a full heart. You know, he's got just a heart of love and joy, and he's
Yeah.
one of the sweetest kids. He's become incredibly capable when you're out camping.
Yeah.
And when he's driving, you know, I'm not going to say this to him, but he's an amazing driver. And I think I think it just, as a dad, you find those moments where you're really proud. And you're just like that.
Sure.
I'm really proud of not how well you drive, but how you navigate what is now your life. You doesn't
Yeah.
have it all figured out, but
Sure.
up to this point,
Yeah.
he's doing pretty good.
Yeah. Great. How about the grief? Do you think it has helped process grief?
So the truck has a wrap on it.
Yep.
Okay, it has a vinyl graphic. That graphic, we spend about 3 or 4 months working with a graphic artist to create that. That is a lot of the journey visually that we've been through.
Yeah.
But then when you see somebody come up and ask, and they're looking at it, and all of a sudden he starts to explain the story.
Wow.
That was the purpose of the wrap. That was the purpose of that. It was the
Yeah.
intention. It was now he look, again, when you look at it, and he is explaining it, and he's talking about it, and then he's talking about the other side of it, which is, here's what's happened.
Yeah.
And here's what we're doing now. Here's what my dad and I are doing together, and we're doing these trips, and it's about trying to move forward.
Tell me a little more about the name, Life's a Journey, Embrace It. Where'd that come from?
So Life's a Journey, Embrace It. It really was to try and take sort of that idea that our lives are this, metaphorically, you look at it, it's like our lives have a sunrise and a sunset, right? We just don't know how long that is. And, you're on this journey in your life, you're on this, and just kind of talking through this a little bit with him, and just kind of within myself. and then looking at it and saying, yeah, well, life's a journey. That's true. That's been said and done. But you know what? You really have to embrace every aspect of it.
Yeah.
And whether it's good or bad, and whether it's sitting in a cancer, in the hematology department, and with a child who's at the end stage of their life, or a spouse who's the same,
Yeah.
or you're in the moments where the greatest day you've ever
Yeah.
experienced, and in all of it, you just have to embrace the fact, because we have expectations of what is to come. There's
Mhm.
no guarantees, and so you better embrace every single moment of it, knowing that there's elements of every single day that you can really uh,
Yeah.
just that you can really appreciate, right? I mean,
Yeah.
some of the worst days of my daughter's care were moments also where there's singular sensations where I could feel her energy and love, like
Yeah.
coming from her body to me. Now, would I have felt that at another moment or time? I don't know, probably,
Yeah.
but I still remember that as being something that was incredibly profound at what would be, if you're outside looking in,
Mhm.
you would think nothing of nothing more than the tragedy and the machines and
Yeah.
and everything else. But so that's just, I choose to focus and move from grief to gratitude as
Mhm.
quickly as I can,
Yeah.
because if I stay in that space of grief, I don't know that you can really survive it.
It's so active. It's so deliberate. It's just there are a lot of ways to move through grief, and you didn't screw around. Like you built you built a machine to turn grief into gratitude almost. It's pretty remarkable. A lot of people watch videos of people doing cool things, and say, "Boy, I wish I should do this." But as my son has had his bouts with oncology and too, but they gave him a genetic test, and they basically said, "We want you to come in right now because we want to talk about these results." So we're driving in, and into Philadelphia, and I am literally, I looked this stuff up, and there is a genetic marker, one of the tests, that says he is 100% going to have colon cancer by the time he's 20. And we're all driving. My wife, Shani, me, and Alex are driving in, and I'm sure that's what they're going to tell us. And newsbreaker, they're telling us it's not that, but they didn't want us to misinterpret it. So whatever. But I remember the literal spot on the median where I'm like, we're in traffic and I could see the hospital there, but I'm waiting for the light to change. And Alex and I had talked about going to Zion, and I was like, Alex, we are going to Zion this year, period. And it just was part of the just the kick in the pants that death can give you.
Yeah.
It was just like, stop fucking around and go do it,
Right.
there is uh, you know, I, death can be a gift in some ways. It's a teacher, and it can make you I find it can make you. It has made me appreciate and it has driven me to live my life because I don't take it for granted as much. So it's
Don't get me wrong. I sit and look out and I'm just like, when Liesel could have been there, she was enrolled, but she was back and forth in care. And,
yeah,
you look at who she would be, who she would be today.
sure.
But I spent about 5 seconds there, and I spend so much more time just thinking about just this amazing girl that I had the gratitude of having in your life. Like, I look at, I think of all these, and my life has had all kinds of books, like, many chapters, but even more so books, and I look at Liesel's life as being this perfectly perfect book. Beginning and its
Yeah,
end wasn't how I would have wanted to see it, but to remark on her story about, the closing of her, the book,
Yeah.
doesn't do it any justice, because her life was and became so profound. And so my job, today, is just to really be able to talk about her, and be able to talk about Courtney, and be able to talk about my
Yeah.
mom. And I continue just moving more towards talking about my daughter, probably more so because of how young she was. But,
Yeah.
I look at it, even when we're on camping trips, and we wind up um we're not always in remote spaces.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're just at a campsite, like in the bay. We were at Devil's Tower,
Mhm.
and at a campsite there, and sitting with another person at the campsite with a fire, and just talking stories.
Yeah.
And everybody's got a story. Everybody's got,
Yeah.
people, tragedy all around us. You just start to become more aware of that it is, and more grateful in the time you've got. And like you said, just maybe try and put your hand out and help some people up a little
Yeah.
bit. Or, you know, I remember stories of going up and down elevators with parents who are just literally about to break, and just saying, I just want to give you love right now. Can I just give
Yeah.
you a hug real quick? Knowing what I'm going through, because I'm
Yeah.
coming down from the PICU ward, and they're coming down, and
Yep.
you're like, and it's just like trying to bring that humanity back, to just be present, not just
Yep.
in your kids' life, but in the lives of people around you, because
Yeah.
there's horrible stuff out there. So,
It's really meaningful to me that that conversation you had with him, the that you described in the beginning, of course it happened in a car. Of course it happened on the road, because, like, boy, some of the best conversations I've ever had with my kids or in life have been, you're locked in there, man, for
yeah.
8 hours, for 4 hours, or whatever, and these dumb things make it a little less present, but the you're it's just you. I like to make my kids drive, and then I sit and I got them. They can't do anything but talk to me, and both my kids love driving too, but there's just a magic uh that the road brings for me. And
Well, and we do most of our road trips, we're not even in the same car.
I know that's incredible. I
So,
didn't know that.
it's always me following him.
Yeah.
It's Daddy Goose following the duckling. There's a video I took, actually. We were talking on the way back from a trip that we took. We did a big round trip going up through Niobrara, north central Nebraska, up into South Dakota, up into the Badlands, and into Mount Rushmore area,
Oh my
back
God.
all the way up into Devil's Tower, coming back down through Wyoming.
Mhm.
I mean, we were moving,
Yeah.
mostly because the winds were so extreme. We couldn't
Yeah.
stop at some of the places we had intended to camp because of the dust. And so we just, we kept moving, and we're coming back, finishing up that trip. And I'm talking to him on the CB radio, asking him about what he's learned.
Yeah.
And as I'm talking back and forth, the interesting thing is we communicate better on CB radio than we do when we're just standing in the, either in the house together.
Yeah.
And as a parent, you're always looking for, how do I communicate with my kids these days? Like,
Yeah.
what's
What
the
what's the
pathway?
channel?
What's the channel? And I remarked, after was making this video, and I think I sent it to you, I remarked at the end of it is, we all need to find the CB radios to our kids.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you need to get on their channel and figure out what that looks like metaphorically, whether it's a CB radio or not.
Yeah.
In what he's sharing back and forth, and being present and talking. And, I never shut him down and say, hey, I'm listening to a good book on tape.
Yeah.
Let's not talk anymore. And, so you always have the walkie-talkie in your hand. Every 30 seconds, I'm like, this is fantastic. That's how,
Yeah.
we like I said, we communicate better
That's amazing.
through the process that we created. The gas bills, the fuel bills probably are more than they really should be. But,
Yeah.
that's kind of our therapy, right? Let's
Yeah.
just
Well,
go
what's the
burn some
price of
fuel and
connecting with
and
your
and
kid,
cover some miles.
Yeah. how's it changed you, Steve? Like what you were saying, you asked him what he learned. What have you learned?
Um, I think what I learned through all of it, and I continue to learn, is as dads, you want to protect them,
Yeah,
you want to provide for them, you want to shelter them, you don't want anything to happen to them. So you have this feeling of control, like like
sure.
these are the things that I'm responsible for, and
Yeah.
then you start realizing that there's so much of this that you're out of control. And what it's taught me is two things. One, to be as perfectly present in the moment as you can be.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it's always perfect, but it means that the intent is to be present, right?
Yeah.
You need to be there and you need to show up because you're not guaranteed what's next. And if you keep showing up every single day, and you got a million days in front of you, that's a pretty good life.
Yep.
But if you look back and think of all the days that you wasted
Yeah.
because you were expecting something else, then that's a waste. So that's one, be
Yeah.
perfectly present. And the other thing that I think I really realized was that it's not it's not my job anymore to tell, it's my job to coach
Yeah.
and to really try to be, I used to get really frustrated if somebody, if Will didn't, or if Will didn't do something I asked him to do,
Sure.
or didn't do this and I asked him to do that. Like, did you not do the dishes or not do the lawn? Like, what is it? And anymore you look at it and it's like, how do I set you up for adulthood? There. And it really started after Liesl died.
Okay.
And so, she passed away June of 2021, and you're it's not all beauty and rainbows, right? Like I didn't just move and all of a sudden say, oh well, tomorrow's a great day.
Wonderful.
You'd have to be mentally unstable to be in
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah.
And so there was just a lot of time there where you're just empty and you're
Yeah.
just like, I just kind of want to feel something again, just feel. And I just loved watching
Right.
these
Yeah.
guys go out on these adventures and these experiences and cool trucks and cool places. And it
Yeah.
just to me represented like this freedom of, and I guess that maybe that's a big part of getting outdoors, is you feel this freedom in
Mhm.
life, and when you're sitting next to a fire and you're cooking bacon,
Yeah.
and you're sitting in your chair listening to the river, wherever you like to go. But it's just this. And I was just starved for that. It
Yeah.
was just like, and then it was one other, and then Courtney was diagnosed. And so it was just like, you don't really know what to do or where to go,
Yeah.
but you like seeing where these people are going because that actually, that looks like it would feel good. And for him to catch on to that and
Yeah.
go, all right, let's go do that and go and get out there.